Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the entree musician, and so are you. And I think in the history of this podcast, this is the first time I'm going to say this because usually with my guests, I say they are entree musicians too. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know if Nick Adduci is an entree musician. I know this. I know he's an incredible songwriter. I know he writes thought-provoking lyrics, but we're going to find out in our conversation if he's an entree musician or not. Now, let me just tell you how I know him. We're both Ohio natives. He in the tiny hamlet of Hubbard, Ohio. Now, Nick Adduci has 3 CDs, and I was able to be a part of the last CD by mixing it. And it came about by a mistake because I was introduced to him by my friend Dan Sabella, who owns Boss Studios in Hubbard. Jerry, do you have an opportunity to mix a CD for one of our former clients? And I absolutely was going to pass on the gig, but wanted to do my friend a favor and heard this young man's music. I heard his music and I was transformed. So I'm grateful that now he's working on a song of mine. So this collaborative effort is getting stronger, and I had to introduce him to you. This is Mr. Nick Adduci. What's going on, brother?
Not much. Good to be here, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad that we could do this, man. I really have been taken aback by your talent, and you and I have had several conversations offline, especially with your dad and whatnot. And so I guess this is going to be the feet to the fire type thing on how you're thinking about your music career because it's definitely on point. I guess the first question I would ask though is, Nick, how did you even get started in music? I know that you're an artist, and by the way, there's a painting behind you that you painted, correct?
That's right.
And who's the painting of? Let us know that, and then we'll talk about the music.
Well, that's my great grandfather, Basilios Brusalis, who came from Greece in about 1920, selling hot dogs or something, was deported to France, had to flee the country and everything. Just a crazy life he had, and very photogenic family. So I got a lot of paintings of him. He's actually the subject of my first album cover from a different picture I did of him from a screen print. But that's the biggest painting I've ever done right there. Probably took me about 6 months.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, was he musical? How did you get your musical genes?
I don't think he was musical. There's some music in my family though. Um, I definitely have that creativity in the family. I had one cousin in particular who was very musical. A cousin whom I never met, who
Hmm.
was the son of my great uncle, who I also never met, who I'm told would make his own violin. He was a carpenter and he would craft a violin that was held together with clamps. He'd be out there playing the violin. My grandfather would be on the harmonica. And my cousin Vince was his son, my Uncle West's son. And I never really knew Vince. He died when I was very young.
Hmm.
But the connection that I have there, because I'm told about his life, how creative that he was, musical that he was, and he used to jam with Phil Keggy. I'm
Oh,
told, back in the day, they knew each other from uh, Liberty or from the North Side, wherever they were at. And this is an interesting story too. Vince had a guitar. He had a beautiful Les Paul
hmm.
that he had bought new in like 1972 or something like that, and it was like his prized possession. He had this guitar for years, played the hell out of it. The thing
Yeah.
was, the gold plating on the pickups. It was a Black Beauty, one of those fretless wonders. It was the gold plating was worn away from years of playing, and my cousin had it for years, and nobody else in the family really played. So she said to me one day, she said, "Nick, I want to give you this guitar." And
Mm.
it's a guitar that I used on the second album I did. I tracked all the electric guitar pretty much that you hear, with the exception of a couple parts that was done by another musician, was done with that Les Paul. And I couldn't believe this incredible gesture, because it's just a gorgeous instrument that I've always admired. And I was honored that she would think to give it to me, that she would part with it. It was her brother's guitar, but she didn't play, nobody played. So I actually, um, to try to pay her back, I made a painting for her. I made actually 4 paintings for her. I put out the best that I could do to try to give her something back, because the value of this thing, the sentimental value alone was, incredible honor. But that's the scratching the surface of the creativity that's in my family, not to mention other cousins and aunts and uncles that are artistically gifted and so forth.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story, man. And so, how far back in your childhood does music come? When did you first realize either, the visual aspect and the gift that you have for art, or hey, man, I'm migrating toward this piano or this guitar?
Well, I always loved music, and a lot of it really comes back to my dad. He, and especially my one uncle, are incredibly knowledgeable about music, to the point where you could ask them anything about those groups from the 60s, 70s, and so on. And it's like an encyclopedia. So the music I was exposed to was consuming in that way. And my dad, he plays guitar. And I remember, I used to, when I was a little kid, he played the chords, I would strum. And eventually, when I was about 8 or 9, I picked up the guitar myself. I started learning little songs here and there, writing songs just on little sheets of paper, little melodies about girls I liked when I was in third grade and everything. One of the biggest breakthroughs for me, and
Uh-huh.
the formative things when I was little about music, was this little computer application called Tablet. And it was a guitar tab software. You put the numbers in, and you could play it back, and it was in guitar tabs, you know. But you can stack them over top of each other, and you
Yeah.
can arrange like symphonies and things. I was probably about 10, and I came across this program, and it was $20, this program. But the songs that I started to write on that's where I really like cut my teeth in the songwriting and the composing aspect of it, and to this day, I think that was one of the most formative experiences as a young kid, getting into music and writing music and composing and arranging music. That was huge for me. Was
Wow.
that $20 little program, which you compare it to programs you find on the computer today, it's, you know what I mean, it's doesn't even compare. But it was so effective back then, and even today, I think, you know, because it just lends itself well to the guitar. That's the instrument I mostly played. I played a little bit of piano in those days. I still play some piano. Used to take lessons when I was little, but the guitar is my main instrument, and being able to write music in that way just flowed for me.
That's fantastic. Well, we've talked about your career in the sense of, what are going to be the next steps for you. Um, when you were writing these songs about your girlfriends in the third grade and, forming this lyrical thing, because I would love to get into a conversation about your lyrics in just a few seconds here, but were you ever thinking that this is going to be my mainstay, or was it just like your paintings? This is just something that I do. It's an extension of me, but I don't have any desire to make this my full time career.
As far as career goes, it's been developing slowly, because it's always been a passion of mine. It's always been a consideration. I mean, when I was little, I wanted to be so many different things. I wanted to be a conductor of an orchestra. You know what I mean? I don't play violin or nothing like that, but I wanted to do that. I wanted to be a train conductor, and ride the rails. I wanted to be a psychologist, you know. my interests are all over the place, and music has always been such a central passion of my life. So it's just been the driving creative force behind everything I do. And no matter what career wise I get into it, it's always there. It's like one of the central focus of my creative career, my creative life. You know, right now I'm a teacher by trade. You know, I teach art at high school, and that's been a way for me to explore another side of things. But the music career has been developing just the past 5 years since I started playing live. I hadn't really considered that as a possibility until I got into it. I couldn't remember how I did, but I just started getting these gigs one by one, and gaining more confidence as a performer. Just me and the acoustic guitar. It was a great gig.
Yeah.
Certainly it was some of the best money I ever made when you look at the hourly rate,
Right.
I tell you. But it's been growing from there, and I'm meeting all these great people in the area in the different aspects of the music scene. Certainly producers and artists like yourself, other musicians, some local legends, and I've been networking with these people, and I'm beginning to feel more and more a part of this this community where I could see myself, becoming more well established. But I just wherever it goes, to me, and I would like to continue on that path.
Yeah, well, I think you would be very welcome in this space. I think again, I'm kind of bringing the those who are watching and listening to this a little bit into our offline conversations, but it definitely would be your decision in the way that you do it. And once you put your heart on the table and go, this is the direction, no doubt that your career is going to go far. Because when I use the word transform early in this conversation in my introduction to you, I didn't mean that in a trivial way. I thought a lot of the lyrics that I heard, because that was the first thing that really pulled me in when you came in and you gave me the two CDs you had produced earlier, and the first thing was, my goodness, the perspective that you take on writing is some very prolific stuff. Where do you draw your inspiration for your lyrics?
For the lyrics, all over the place, depending on the song. Some of them start as poems. Some of them were about specific people or specific feelings, times in my life. A lot of the times, what I like to do is take something mundane, something trivial, and look at it from a different angle, in a sense, kind of abstract it in a way, you know,
Mm,
like Picasso, like a cubist, take something and obscure it in a sense.
wow.
Um, an example of that I could give you
Sure.
is take the song. There's a song on my second album called "Flower of Buffalo," which is a personification of, you listen to it. It's a girl named Daisy who was an outlaw. You know, the song is for Buffalo. The city is my home. The beast that used to roam. It's a personification, actually, of a car
Mm,
that a friend of mine, she drove. We went up to Buffalo one day. She was from New York State, and she had to get an inspection. She was living in Pennsylvania, but she had to get the yearly inspection. We went up to Buffalo just, for the day, whatever. And the car ended up failing the inspection because there was a great big uh, bulge in the side wall of the tire, could blow any second.
mm.
And we spent all day in the town trying to find, a place that had that size of tire, which proved very difficult. We wondered how we're going to get home and everything. And we drove up to Niagara Falls on this bum tire and just made a day of it. And that's where the song came from. And I told it to my one buddy. I said, that's what the song is about. He said, that ruins the song for me. I thought it was this girl and it was mysterious, Daisy and it's a flower, but oh, it's just about a car. So sometimes it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it's like that. It just comes from some places, not really a deeper meaning. I think a lot of times I will assign I'll impose a deeper meaning on these songs after I've written them. I'll try to make sense of them, and sometimes there is a deeper meaning to be found, and sometimes not. Sometimes they're just, abstractions of the mundane aspects of life.
Man, this is pure art. Pure art, unadulterated, uncompromised. Well, one song that truly, just really, again, there's an age difference between us too, and you're in your mid 20s, and when I heard Jesus was a friend of mine, or Jesus is a friend of mine, was a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and you know, I thought, okay, here's someone who is clearly in the other. Yeah, it's like you got into this guy's head. I'm gonna let you explain it, so I'm trying not to like spoil it for the people because I want you to explain it. But you clearly got into this character's head and unveiled a part of him that we've never seen, even though we've read the scripture about him, what his fate was, etc., etc. And you kind of got in there. So I'll let you tell the story, and then please tell us how you came to approach writing from this character's viewpoint.
Well, that particular song actually came about because of the chord progression. I just had this very chromatic, almost like Middle Eastern sounding chord progression, and I just started, I just, whatever comes to me. And what came to me was Jesus was a friend of mine. I said, okay, I'm gonna write a song about Jesus. It always affects me in a way. I really am drawn to these songs where Jesus is invoked, but not necessarily a religious song. I think of songs like Suzanne by Leonard Cohen, because it's a powerful invocation when you bring God into something, when you bring God or Jesus into a song. That's a very powerful thing, and when people do it very carefully, I think it could be very effective. Like in Suzanne, Jesus was a sailor when he walked upon the water. I love that line. And so I just had that line. Jesus was a friend of mine. I said, okay, so I have this line. How am I going to try to do that same careful reckoning with God in a song, but not go the straightforward route, go the Leonard Cohen route? So it starts out pretty simple. Jesus was a friend of mine with whom I once shared some bread and wine. It's true, I knew him well, you see, not as well as he knew me. And it kind of sets the stage for a song that's really not about Jesus, but about Judas, who is the villain, who is the one who had to betray Jesus, who is the one who had to fall, who then hung himself, took money, sold his soul. You know what I mean? And by the end of the song, I don't know, it was just going in that direction. I figure I turn it around. It ends, I am Judas, you know my name. But you, my friend, would do the same. And I pointed it back on the listener, on the world,
Right.
because
Right.
Judas, that was his destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Was he the devil, or was he just the one who had to be in that position? Jesus had to die. He had to die on the cross.
Yeah.
Somebody had to betray him. And here's Judas. But you, my friend, would do the same. You kill your fathers. You kill your sons. You kill yourself when you were done. You kill for money with a kiss, how he betrayed Jesus, or with a gun.
Yeah.
Killers of saviors, friends, you are Judas too. So I don't know. It was just, and I never really had that thought before. I never philosophized on, the morality of Judas or anything like that. And was he
Sure.
evil? Was he just in the wrong place at the wrong time, or so to speak? And we're all sinners in that sense. So
Yeah.
if we vilify Judas, but then then again, you can't pass judgment on somebody else. And Judas, he betrayed Jesus, right?
Yes.
But if we're all sinners, then you are
Right.
Judas too. You, my friend, would do the same. I don't know. It came about really because of a chord progression and because I like the song Suzanne, you know? And I that's one of those songs where the meaning came second. But I think it does make sense. And I think I was able to make it coherent. At least I hope so. I hope it came
No,
across in that way.
definitely. It came across, and I had to play it a couple times just to, because it's a profound perspective that you take. The music, the haunting, the moment that you create to put this quote unquote villain inside of this story for us to um, look at him in a 360-degree angle, and then you turn the mirror on us, and it's crazy. It's like, Nick, okay, that prompted the phone call that fateful Saturday morning. When I
Yeah.
said, "What? Okay, what's happening? What's next for you? What are you gonna do? What's your dream? What's your passion? And how can I be involved?" That was it, because that's just one that I'm pulling out. Obviously, all three of your CDs are delightful, and I mean that honestly. I would not say that. I don't have to say that if I don't mean it, but I think that you have something, my friend, that I appreciate in those artists who are pure, who are original, who are unique, who really not only have set the bar a little higher, but you, without trying to, you're just opening up your chest and go, well, here it is. Here's how I feel at the time. And that's the purest art. And I love it. And I appreciate you for it, man.
Well,
So
thank you very much.
I mean that. That's real, real good. So, so where do you go from here?
Where do I go from here?
Where do you
I hope
go
to
from
just
here?
continue in that positive direction.
Yeah, man.
Every day I'm meeting new people, you know, who I can sympathize with and I can understand, and I hopefully they can understand me. And as I become more involved with that community of musicians, and just put it myself out there, these albums that would, this that was something I hadn't really envisioned when I was on tablet writing them little songs on the computer when I was like 10. But here I've got some albums out
Right.
and trying to move those, get more people to listen to them. If they like them, good. If not, hey man, I like them. Come and say. So I don't know. Hopefully, I get more people to listen to these songs and at least get the gist of it. And whatever happens, happens.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. So, tell me about life as a high school art teacher. How long have you been doing it, and what's your greatest passion about working with those children? Man?
Well, this is my second year, you know,
Hmm.
and this year is so far has been a lot different than last year. You know, last year I had mostly seniors, upperclassmen, very small classes, and I had quite a bit of very, very talented students who did very well in art shows. They did very well in local contests and showcases. And to me, one of the best parts was definitely was watching these different voices take shape and
Hmm.
hopefully being somebody that could encourage that, and give them the space to do that, you know.
Yeah.
And this year, I'm sure it's going to be the same way, you know. But the year's just starting, and it's starting a little bit late. We just came off of a strike, and my classes are a little bit different this year. I
Hmm.
certainly got more students. I got younger students, and the challenges of dealing with seniors versus freshmen, I'm coming to find is very different. Not so bad as when I used to be. I used to be at elementary school as a substitute teacher, and
Ah.
I'll never go back to kindergarten. But it's different, and we're just getting started. We're just working on the first project this year. I'm excited to see what they come up with. I can hopefully, you know, bring that out of these kids, you know, and at least give them a space to be creative. Because one kid might be Michelangelo, The next one, they tell me they don't like art, but if they could leave the class at least with some appreciation, then hopefully I've at least done my job.
Right.
You know.
That's right. Well, I can see that, man. We were working together in the summer when, you were taking them to, I think, different museums or what have you, while we were finishing up your latest project. And I could tell when you'd come into the studio that you really enjoyed being with the children. And I think that that's the greatest appreciation of teachers when they really do honor the students and love pouring into them. And you have that genuinely.
Well, thank you. It's just, I like working with different people. Being a teacher, you get to see, the whole spectrum of humanity. There's very few professions where you really got to deal with everybody, and you
That's
have to be
true.
able to deal with everybody.
That's
I'm
true.
not just dealing with other with peers necessarily. You know,
Right.
with like-minded individuals, you got to deal with everybody. And every student has different challenges. They're certainly not all going to like you right off the bat. You know, as I've come to find out. But that's that. But the different challenges could be their strengths in a sense. You know,
That's
you
true.
know, and sometimes that gets overlooked. Sometimes they don't even see that themselves. And
Right.
I just like working with people. That's all. You know.
That's excellent. So, musically again, what are you working on next? Are you going to produce another album? Or are you just looking at recording singles, or what do you think where do you think your direction is going to flow?
Well, that's the business end of it because I definitely have the material, and I got some tentative track lists for
Mhm.
another album that I have put together. And I have some ideas about what to do with those and how I may want to record them. But singles seems to be the way to go from a business standpoint. It's not a way that I've embraced, but then again, I haven't historically made the best business decisions. If I did, then more people would be listening to this stuff. You know what I mean? And I'd be in a different position business wise.
Perhaps,
Right. But I'm
perhaps.
certainly open to the idea of changing up my strategy in that sense, as far as embracing the idea of singles and alternate takes.
Yeah.
And that's something that Dante Basista, his approach, with putting out a high volume of music, you know,
Mhm.
and alternate takes of different songs, that resonates with me, and that's something I'm definitely considering because I do have some songs that I put on these albums, and I mean, I'm doing most of this stuff on my own, and it sounds good in the moment, but I look back and I said, boy, I could have done that better. I could have arranged this part, played this part better. Because when it's all me, it's easy to look at it in a moment and say, "Boy, I'm great." You know what I mean? But then when you look back, then it's easier even then to be critical when it's your own
Sure.
stuff, your own playing, your own production. And I'm certainly open to the idea of alternate takes of the
Yeah.
songs I already have, of acoustic takes, because that's how the songs are mostly performed. That's how they're written. Is acoustic. It's me and the guitar when I'm out playing places. Usually it's just me and the guitar. You know, I think songs in that sense they can have their own life. When I think of people like Dylan, for example, who everybody covered Dylan. You know, and you take a song like, I don't know, "Blowing in the Wind," and that song has its own history from Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul, and Mary. You know what I mean? I
Right.
don't know, and maybe I could bring some of that, write the history for some of these songs, and singles, alternate versions, that could be part of the deal. But in the immediate future, I do hope to at least get some of these new songs recorded towards another album. I kind of have an idea for the name and tentative track list. It's just a matter of getting back into the studio, you know,
Understood.
getting the school year started, and finding that time, trying to balance those two things as much as I can, you know, and
That's
and,
right.
and getting ahead. Because last year, I was in school, and after school, go down to the studio and stay there till late at night, and that's it. So I hope to do that again. Yeah.
I don't. How much homework do you have to grade as an art teacher? I would imagine that you and the math teacher are not in the same planet where you don't have the homework load that they might, huh?
Well, I try to be efficient. I try to do as much as I can at school and take advantage of the planning time that I have, in my
Yeah.
schedule, which is not a whole lot. And sometimes you got to do other things, but invariably, especially last year, I did have to bring a lot of stuff home with me. Not necessarily even grading so much, especially last year because my classes were so small. It
Hmm.
was easy to get the grading. When I got class of 2, 3 kids, 8 kids, you know what I
Right.
mean? I could get this a grade at school. But now I got 20 kids in the class. It's a
Right.
different story.
I can dig it. One more question for you, man, because I met your wonderful dad, Bob Adduci, and you talked about the rich history that he and your uncle had for being encyclopedias of music. So while they're introducing you to all of this music, this young Nick, who are you drawing from the most when you think back into your childhood? Who are you like migrating toward before the other myriad of artists they've introduced you to?
You mean as far as like musical influences?
Yeah, yeah,
I would say, Bob Dylan, he's number one for me. Just in terms of his lyrics and the timelessness of his songs. The fact that his songs are given life by so many different people, and there's so many angles. There's so many different ways to look at a Bob Dylan song. Steely Dan is another one of my favorite bands, but that's a group where you don't really get a lot of covers. With them,
sure.
there's such craftsmen, you know, from production standpoint, and with such a unique sound and meticulous uh, arrangements. You know, the Velvet Underground is another group that in my own production, that I'm very inspired by, because it's very, you know, stripped down, experimental, garage rock, proto punk, whatever you want to call it. And of course, it always comes back to the Beatles. You know,
Yeah,
you can't forget about the Beatles.
absolutely.
And they were always the ones for me that just have the most range. And I was always drawn to their music, and I wanted to write music like that. And it's a reason why people use the word Beatlesque to
Yeah,
describe songs with interesting turns and unorthodox chord progressions, and
right,
that type of thing.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I certainly appreciate you, man. I appreciate you being on with us doing this podcast episode. My heart is to work as closely with you as fate will allow us to. You're presently working on a tune as lead singer of a song I wrote called Tomorrow Today. And you're
Hmm.
really captured, the vibe of what we're trying to do there. And yesterday we put some background vocals on it. It's time for me to edit that and send that to you, and we continue to craft it out to be the great song I know it will be. So just having your spirit on it is really, really very cool, man. And having you on here is just a blessing as well. So I thank you for
And
your time, man.
and I say that I'm blessed that you would have me on here, and I'm honored that you would include me on your song because it's a great track. It's
Thank you.
it was definitely a stretch for me because it's a song where the demands on the singer, I had thought originally, was beyond my abilities, because I think, I'm Lou Reed, I'm Bob Dylan, I ain't Al Green, you know what I mean? But I think we, you know
We're
got,
coming there.
with your
We're
help,
getting on
I
that,
think you
man.
got me to the point where I could at least put out remotely what you were looking for, because I don't want to dishonor it. Was a great track, you know. And Tiffany, I'm told, is a tremendous vocalist,
She
and
is.
hopefully she's able to kind of complement my style, which is, like I said, a little bit lo-fi,
Yeah, well,
on a very hi-fi track.
it's
Excellent track.
thank you very much. But it's it's a gumbo It's a stew, and I think that you both are coming on to it with the right perspective. That is gonna, I'm kind of other too. I'm not as other as you are yet, but I think this track is an other, and it will catch people by surprise. And two great voices on it, and just the way that you approach the lyrics, I tremendously appreciate it. I really do.
Well,
So
thank you.
it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great to see
Yes, it
what
is.
people think about it, because again, it's just going to set off in a corner by itself somewhere and say, hey, just like any Beatles, Bob Dylan, Steely Dan, Velvet Underground track does. So hopefully we're in good company. You know what I mean?
Hopefully, hopefully.
Well, brothers and
The song
sisters,
definitely got the material to be that. Definitely.
absolutely, it does. It does. Well, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, this is Nick Adduci. This is how you can reach him at Nick Adduci Music. And I'm sure that he would love to hear from you. Nick, are there any particular places where they can go and listen to your music right now?
It's streaming everywhere through DistroKid. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. You want to look up Nick Adduci. The three records that I have out are two albums, United Music and United Music 2, as well as an EP called United Music Outtakes. So if you look up Nick Adduci, United Music, that's what you're going to see. So there is the Outtakes EP. Here are the two albums.
Yeah, absolutely. Great
You're going
art.
to get that
Great
graphic
artwork on
style
it.
there. That's my, or here he is,
Yeah.
my great grandfather over here.
Yeah, let me
Now,
pull
and I
that
try to
up.
stay with that theme. I got my grandfather and great aunt, and I just, for no reason, it's got nothing to do with United Music. Even the words United Music got nothing to do with anything. I just like how they go together. A collage, like you said, it's like a stew, it's a gumbo. That's kind of my MO with all this stuff.
And you do it absolutely well. Thank you for
Thank you.
being my friend, man, and thank you for bringing a whole nother element to music. I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's going to do it for this episode of The Entree Musician. Again, that's Nick Adduci. He is the real thing. So, if you're looking for something quite different, you're going to absolutely enjoy his approach to music. We don't know if he's an entree musician yet, but we're trying to make him one, okay? My name is Jerry B. I am the entree musician, and so are you. Don't forget to pick up my best-selling book, The Path of the Entree Musician. Don't forget to pick it up. This is all about unlocking your mindset, discipline, and focus. We share with you 9 keys. You can get this on Amazon. Do It Today is also available as an audiobook. I've enjoyed this opportunity to talk with Nick Adduci, and I'm always enjoying when you tune in. Tell everybody you know and 7 people you don't. Peace and blessings to you. We'll see you next time.